So Daftpina, a name you probably don't know. It's someone that I used to watch quite a lot around 2018, when my Overwatch addiction was at its peak, which thank god them ruining the game was some sort of Narcan to curb my addiction that was maining Ryan and Widowmaker and Diamond. But anyway, Daftpina from what I thought back then was like the Gordon Ramsay of the art community. No, he didn't have the same prestige as the British chef that looks like his forehead textures were replaced with wrinkly testicles, but he was someone that would critique and call out those within the art community either for sloppy art like tracing, suspected scams, and I think even at one point being predators, or people just copying other people's work. And from what I remember back then with those rose-tinted glasses, was that I really used to enjoy these videos. Specifically where he would talk about the fundamentals of animation in the background whilst I played Overwatch. I only had one monitor around this time. I specifically enjoyed videos like the TheOdd1sOut clone, someone that was tracing a lot of work from his videos, and I'm pretty sure from this video I learned TheOdd1sOut was a fairy. That information literally changed nothing for me, but it was a bit of lore from a side quest I didn't expect to learn. From what I remember from his videos, he was primarily equipped with a monotone voice. No, it wasn't inspired by that other YouTuber, because it was as lifeless as a rigor mortis ridden corpse, and most of his sentences finished with 3 seconds of dead air. It was to the point where if you heard him speak normally, it was like a completely different person.
And Matt's voice in Audition, using the spectrogram.
It was somewhat of a charming quality in his content, to be honest. And he was also very specific and critical within his videos when reviewing the people within the art community, and no one was safe no matter how big you were. He made videos on more notably the aforementioned TheOdd1sOut and Jaiden Animations. I'm looking back at some of his videos in the present day, it gave me whiplash greater than any vehicular collision could ever induce. He straight up showed porn of one of the creators uncensored, and this was on YouTube, admittedly age restricted, but it was there. I watched this content years ago and probably didn't notice it. But in the present day I was recently reminded that Daftpina existed when watching a video about someone else from the art community, in which I found out the art community isn't what I remembered. At least from when I was watching that content, and I hadn't seen anything from Daft in a while, but upon searching his channel, he was gone. A few re-uploads, but no channel with the name Daftpina. But it did show another channel with a very recognisable voice and speech pattern, which we'll talk about later. The name Daftpina had seemingly been removed from YouTube, and with my curiosity piqued, I wanted to find out what happened. I found a few posts and videos going into the situation, and upon learning about the whole Horus heresy that I had in fact missed, it made me fully realise that the content I thought I was watching back in 2018 was very different to what it actually was in the memory banks of my mind, and what I had missed in the time skip mid-season of 2018 to the current year was an absolute mess. And I also indirectly learned more about the art community of YouTube than I really needed to. Believe me, I was very much happier in my naivety. The whole situation with Daftpina, from his rise to his controversies to being hated by the art community itself, to his later repainting and purging of his past on the internet, is something that I was interested in since remembering him again, and something I wanted to talk about today. But first, who was Daftpina?
This is a good use for self-deprecation humor.
Daftpina, or Ryan Björk, born on November 5th, 1997, started his channel in 2015. Most of his earlier uploads focused on reviews of cartoons, and some arbitrary uploads in there as well. However, these early uploads would be seemingly lost to time, as once again he removed a lot of content due to his purging of his account, but even before this event he had already removed some of these early uploads a year after uploading them, when he shifted his content focus because, to be blunt, he was not going to be known for his critiques and reviews of cartoons, actually except for maybe Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, which in the current year is low-hanging fruit at this point. But instead he was going to be more well known for directing his criticism towards the art community of YouTube. But before any of that, Daft in 2016 would get surgery for his sunken chest, or pectus scavatum, however the fuck that is, where your breastbone is sunken into your chest or indented. And it is a serious condition where sometimes the breastbone can apply pressure to essential organs like your heart or lungs. His operation went well, but he was incapacitated for months. He couldn't even laugh or cough and was on the highest dose of opioids. He would make a full recovery shortly after, but still struggled with some mobility and pain in the middle of the night. But after all of this, he would promptly start college. Whilst it is unknown what he studied at college, and if it was something that would have provided a basis for his knowledge that he would use in his critique of others, or if he just dropped out, he would around the same time start producing his videos critiquing art YouTubers, especially those centered around story time animation. All of what I just told you is important later on, so keep it in that little RAM stick in your head for now. Storytime animation is a genre that was doing very well in the early 2010s. I personally remember binge watching Domix back in the day.
Bitches be crazy, bitches be crazy, bitches be crazy.
The worst thing is, prepubescent me had this song downloaded to my ancient HTC Wildfire, but goddamn do I miss Dominix's regular uploads. However, in 2017, the genre of storytime animation was exploding in viewership once again. This was around the time Daft started making his first few critique videos, with his first video being about the YouTuber Me and Myself, who had 7,000 subscribers at the time.
Hello, I'm Daftpina, and today instead of talking about a TV show, I'm going to talk about YouTuber Me and Myself. He is an animated storyteller,
and compared to the videos he would later make, it was rather lukewarm in terms of how far he went, and the video actually had more to do with how that YouTuber could improve their content further.
Long story short, add more backgrounds in your videos. Overall background quality is 2 out of 10.
But as said, this is probably one of the more lukewarm videos, as his later uploads would make him infamous in the art community, as he would critique everything and anything. I think in one video he even focused on the fact Jaiden Animation has white backgrounds and the fact she dropped out of college.
Yeah, so I put going to college and getting a degree on hold so I can make YouTube videos.
Okay, so she dropped out of college to pursue making videos? Because when you tell people like me who work and go to college that you can't be bothered to draw some backgrounds, kind of makes me feel insulted.
But it did come off as somewhat sarcastic at times, so maybe he wasn't that serious. But he mainly scrutinised her art style, saying it left a lot to be desired, which similar opinions could be found in other videos he did on other creators, and some saw this as him trying to tell other creators how to make their videos better from an unbiased view, and others saw it as him having a fully erect hate boner for some of these creators, partially due to some of the very questionable uploads he made around this time. But these videos critiquing creators were doing very well at the time, so he began reproducing them, gradually getting more and more critical each video to the point where he had gone past the line of an unbiased review, and it almost seemed like he was getting a lot more personal with his critiques, which a lot of people surrounding the art community and the creators themselves viewed it as very distasteful. Many citing the other video he created about Jaiden Animations, claiming she faked her face reveal and talked about her eating disorder.
The fact that she made an entire video dedicated to her life and how great she is leaves me to believe she might be a bit narcissistic. And she is amazing for beating the odds of her mental disorders. And if you experienced any of that, then she just baited, hooked, and got you with her emotional guilt.
Video of me. So stop asking. Okay.
Wow, Jaiden, it's like that face reveal video never happened. And it feels like those months and even years of torment also never happened.
But at this time he was getting a lot of views and attention for this behaviour, so he didn't stop. In one video covering the YouTuber Chili Panda, an up-and-coming animation YouTuber, he told her to straight up stop drawing.
I'm not telling you to quit drawing because you're copying someone else. I'm telling you to quit drawing because you can't draw. And judging by your art over the course of a year, you'll never be able to draw.
Which she later did in 2021 anyway, but then became a VTuber, which I can't tell if it was a good thing or a bad thing that Daftpina might have had a small involvement in that decision. Mainly when discussing bigger creators, he would look for the most microscopic crumb of dick cheese as a point, and then speculate something else based on said dick cheese.
Such as the plaques she has on the ground. You know, the thing that some people dedicate their lives to get, and she just has them lying on the floor.
come to think of it, in like a recent video, James talks about his current girlfriend. I bring this up as if they broke up. Would he delete the video? Is that why she isn't named? So he can just keep the video up if they broke up.
Obviously, with said attention, he also received negative attention where people would start to call him out for things either he embellished, speculated, or points he displayed disingenuously, which led him to removing a number of videos in 2018 after significant backlash and a public apology we'll talk about later. But even after this apology, he still continued to make this type of content, and in the same year reached 100,000 subscribers. He also wasn't now just critiquing people's art styles or their potentially personal lives, or if they traced or not, which is something he really liked to focus on. He was also now exposing people for being predators such as Otaku Studios, which he actually received a lot of praise for, and as the years went on he kept churning out this content exposing and harshly critiquing creators and animated shows. In 2020 he reached 200,000 subscribers, and was also a host and co-host of multiple podcasts, such as the Pizza Party podcast and the Bad Take Delete podcast. However, towards the end of 2022 and nearing the start of 2023, either down to people realizing he wasn't completely unbiased in his critiques, other creators making videos critiquing the critiquer, or the type of content he made slowly becoming oversaturated, he started to see a decrease in viewership and a year later a change of heart, where he deleted most of his heavily critical videos and stated he no longer wanted to cover drama, and renamed his channel to Dove and Draw, with a different focus and video style, which is where his channel stands to this day. However, even though he strayed away from drama, he still had a lasting effect on the art community, and his name still holds some infamy to this day. But why?
Oh no!
So Daft was a little daft in his videos. As mentioned before, he went way beyond what people thought his original motive was, to provide feedback to creators to make their channel better, and especially in his early uploads came across as somewhat venomous with his critiques, mainly towards bigger YouTubers like Jaiden and TheOdd1sOut, and as I showed you before, Daft had the behaviour of making a point and then speculating from said point with no further evidence, such as speculating Jaiden was a narcissist because she talked about her life, hinting she never had an eating disorder, and most of the videos talking about said problem and why she shies away from public images was just for attention. And he also made a whole list of mental disorders he thought Jaiden had. This is also around the same time he made the Chili Panda review. And as said, he got a lot of backlash for these videos to the point where he deleted them and apologised to people like Jaiden a year later. But around that time he did keep the video where he was basically doing the same thing, talking about her music video about her eating disorder. And in said video he says he had no problem with the video he just deleted, but Jaiden accepted his apology. But that was around 2018 to 2019, and he learned his lesson from this feedback, and it did seem like that till he started doing the same thing with TheOdd1sOut. He made multiple videos on the TheOdd1sOut, the most important being TheOdd1sOut the Hidden Hypocrite, somewhat claiming he was racist from some of his past content.
In videos like My Thoughts on Job Interviews, where the math kids he was tutoring were all Asians with nearly the same haircut and slanted eyes. Noting the race of the kids didn't play a part in the story, it's kind of weird that he went out of his way to make them a stereotype. After seeing all this, you might be typing in the comments, is James racist? From the fact that he doesn't understand why certain concepts might be offensive to people, i.e. Uncle Remus from Song of the South, the fact that he'd rather sweep under the rug his uncomfortable past rather than acknowledging it means that he hasn't fully come to terms with what he's done, the fact that there's a prominent number of jokes in his videos where the punchline is the race of said person, and
speculations about his relationship and friends at the time.
Of course, that James hasn't tweeted or talked to Adam publicly since January, remembering that he replies to all of his other friends, so you might have to wonder if they drifted apart or something happened.
And many other claims, like saying he was disingenuous for deleting some of his past videos and was trying to appear more family friendly when he wasn't. And TheOdd1sOut even responded to this video going over most of his points, and probably the most important line is where he goes over Daft's common tactics, where he will find a piece of evidence and then fill it up with speculation to paint the image he wants. But this wasn't just a one-off, there was more problems with Daft's content, especially with how he painted creators, as he would either twist the truth, make situations even worse, or not provide the full truth. There are a lot of controversies and situations he found himself in due to these so-called tactics. But to keep this short, here is a list. But also, some of these creators are known for other terrible things, but they still did deserve an unbiased review and all the context. But Anyway, Ethereum art was claimed to be racist and homophobic, despite being black and gay, which related to some of the slurs he was saying, and Daft wouldn't let him tell his side of the story when he reached out. With the creator Antunes, he would strongly imply he was racist and only used 6 minutes of a 6-hour call to assist in this point, and never released the full call, despite saying he was going to. And when Antunes tried to defend himself, he would release screenshots of messages, which relit a drama between Antunes and a creator called Puppy-chan, and these were old screenshots out of context. There was a Twitter artist called Tina Fate who was catfishing people pretending to be a woman on Discord, and Daft tried to coax them into a call to interview them in the worst way possible, saying he has all the information on them, and it was perceived as him saying he was going to dox them, which he later clarified he did not mean it that way. Then he released information such as their personal Facebook, which provided enough context for people to actually find them, in a tweet where he was saying he was not going to make a video on them, and this was to prove they are a man, which he sort of apologised for, included a person as evidence in one of his videos against Odd1sOut, but this person didn't want to be included in this part, but he put them in anyway against their wishes. There were claims he had a heavy contribution going over the YouTuber LS Mark's marriage on the Just Stops channel, saying he's basically being manipulated in said marriage, but Daft claims he wasn't that involved. But that is the basic summary and the shortlist. If you want further details and additional context, you can get it from Definitely Bored Orange's video and Advil's, but Daft quite literally had a laundry list of fuck-ups at this point. But don't get me wrong, this wasn't all of his content. He did have some good videos, but his reputation due to all of these faults at this point was compromised, and in 2023 would decide not to cover drama again, and would move towards a different type of content he enjoyed making, like interviewing artists. This was covered in the video, a personal video, where he explains a lot of his actions. So remember the operation I mentioned at the start of the video? You probably don't, but he had a medical problem that required surgery, and he was in a lot of pain even after he had the surgery.
But sleeping was another issue. Something that didn't go away was waking up in the middle of the night with searing pain. The feeling that I cannot move, crying as I had to force myself to take a painkiller.
In this video he talked about this and his mindset at the time, where he said the reason he talked a lot about these YouTubers like Jaiden and Odd1sOut because he didn't have any time to work on his own animations and was projecting.
I'll put out so many of these reviews, I became infamous in the community. I think part of the reason why I talked about other channels was because I didn't have time for my own works, and wanted to shit on them because they had time, like I was projecting, or something along those lines. In 2017, I made How Jaiden Faked Her Face Reveal. It was a vile video made at my lowest, projecting my feelings of insecurity and pain onto Jaiden. I was surprised that she even accepted the apology, which I never deserved, but I'm grateful for. In 2019, I would eventually meet her dad, and apologize to him as well. I was just some guy out here with a microphone and camera, while he was actually out there making stuff. I was way too harsh on him and his team. I'd also gone too far into his personal life, both his former experience with his high school friend, as well as his then girlfriend, and it's never my place to cover. Also, for another creator, Choi Panda, I did tell her to stop drawing, but no one should stop their art journey, even if it takes a bit to improve, or not. Art is not a competition, it's whatever you want out of it. Since then, the video had been taken down, and I was able to apologize to her face to face.
He covers a lot of things in this video, but finishes off the video by saying he can't say he isn't the same person because he still is, and it's going to be a journey.
I had stopped making drama content for quite a bit, though it's not as if I can say I wasn't the same person, because I somewhat still am. It is not an overnight process to get better. It will take time.
Now obviously some people thought this was him writing off most of his controversies and mistakes by saying it was all of his chest pain, and some didn't believe that his personal problems had any impact on the decision he chose to make those videos. But it's up to you if you want to believe him at his word. But in my opinion, I think the purpose of the video was to somewhat clear the air, but I would have expected him to at least touch on the many other controversies he was involved in. But that was the last we saw of Daftpina, because now we know him as Dovin Draws, where you can actually see him doing the thing he said he wanted to do, drawing and interviewing people. His videos are very different now, even his voice as well.
3 years ago, Joe Cat made a silly animation about fictional characters.
And so far, he has stayed true to what he said in that video, and he hasn't covered drama, at least covered drama as he would have previously. He is trying to make a fresh start, but all of the mistakes he made can't just be wiped away, and it's something he knows will take time. So this essentially was a quick video about a person I watched years ago and just suddenly remembered and wanted to talk about. I think if Daft stuck to mainly talking about people's art styles, obviously being level-headed and fair, he probably would have been fine and uploading to this day. But he started making his critiques somewhat personal till they eventually turned into something like exposed videos, which did work for him in some cases, but not in the long run due to his own personal interaction with the content and how he was displaying information, and developed an infamous reputation that to this day still holds some weight. Once again, there are better videos by Definitely Bought Oranges and Advil, but this is something I just wanted to talk about, and yeah, that's all I had to say, and bye bye.